Yes, hello everyone. I will say my first words in English and then I will switch to Spanish, so sorry, you will have to maneuver a little bit your devices. First of all, I want to say that as an Italian and a woman from the South, it is a great, great, great pleasure to be one of the hosts of this event. And I think, especially in my case, most of my political life has been dedicated, among others, to kind of make sure that these events one day could be happening in the south of Europe and organized by the Greens. So I'm very happy and thank you very much for being here. And now I switch to English, to Spanish, sorry, porque tengo el placer.
Because I'm going to present the next panelist. Although in Spain, he doesn't need presentation. For me, it's a great honor to present him because I do think that we have to unite our fight. And this is what the Social Green Summit is all about. We cannot allow for the different fights to fight against the different vulnerability collectives. We need to unite the different parts of the society to create and strengthen and articulate our fight. And we need to make the just transition a reality. And of course, unions, trade unions, are the best way to do so. We have been mentioning that democracy is threatened, and social actors are crucial to protect it, and not only to protect it, but also to strengthen it. And I know it because trade unions here in Spain know a lot about democracy, because Comisiones Obreras had a central role to organize the different workers to overcome the fascist regime and to secure a democratic transition, and they will have an important role in this transition that we want to have. So Secretary General from Comisiones Obreras, the greatest trade union in Spain with more than 1 million affiliates. Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon to everyone. And firstly, in the name of Comisiones Obreras, of the trade union, I would like to thank you for this possibility to be able to take part in this Social Green Summit. That is a space in which we can exchange ideas, and for an organization as a trade union, for example, is of maximum interest, and it's really useful because it allows for two worlds to generate a dialogue between different parties, between sustainability, between the green ecological part to the trade union movement that historically has been coming nearer and nearer to this economical model that needs to be sustainable. And not every time in our history we have had this dialogue in a peaceful way. That is true, but this is a great moment to overcome these problems, challenges, and approach this transition that we will have in Spain, in the European Union, and in other parts. This intervention cannot be very long, and therefore I'm going to keep it short. However, I wanted to leave you with a couple of messages, starting with something that is quite like a paradox for me, because we are facing something in this post-pandemic world. And according to what we think, we are living in a historical time. Since the construction of the social states and the well-being states after the Second World War, theoretically, the different progressive options, the different pro-European options, and the options that knew that we had to approach this energy and ecological transition, need to be as strong as possible. And why do I think that this is the moment in which these options need to be strong? Because in a period of, for example, 10 years, we are able to compare the result of having been able to face the crisis of 2008 under the paradigm of the austerity policies after 2011, and we are able to contrast the results of these policies and to compare them with the sequence of the crisis that we have had after the post-pandemic time, after this health dimension crisis, after the post-pandemic with economic crisis that was huge, and with several problems in the globalization model that wasn't questioned until now. And from the trade union, we had understood very well the problems in the chain, in the value chain, and against the pandemic, all the tools that we had used, and the inflation as consequence of the pandemic and of the war in Ukraine, and all of these consequences are being shown, and we see the rise in prices and the crisis in energy prices and the necessity of valuing what energy feels like and is like in a world in which we need to face these problems, these supply problems, to face the economic crisis as well. So if we take into account this comparison, how the austerity policies were faced, and here we have representatives of the whole world, of course, and just to say something, to give some details, some years ago, we had an unemployment rate of 27%. In some places in Spain, it was even more than 30%. And we lost our rights, our working rights. And in 3-4 years, we saw how our conditions were each time worse and worse. And neoliberalism was favorizing low wages. We were cutting on investments, and this was the receipt for some countries as Ireland, Italy, Greece. And this was the receipt, basically. And our country suffered from this. And after 10 years, we were able to go back to these employment rates that we had before the crisis. If we compare this with what has happened after the different funds, the European funds, we have contained the destruction, we have raised wages, and we have made employment more stable. They were temporary before, and now they are permanent contracts. And we have put the different resources together. We have gathered them in Europe to give a path to this digital transition. So we're speaking about two different models of escaping the crisis, and population needs to be reflected regarding this balance that goes towards these European laws, and making sure that this energy model changes, and so that we keep on developing these clean energy sources, because it's all about sustainability, it's all about the planet, but it's all about surviving economically, at least in the spaces in which we are suffering energetically. And we're 1 year ahead to the elections, and however, we are already understanding what threats are represented by the neo-fascists and by the far right. And it's not just Italy. It's not the risk that we had in France or in the eastern countries or in Spain, but two big countries, two big powers as Brazil, as the United States, are being led by far right governments. So it's all about climate denial. There are some people that deny the consequences of climate change if we keep on doing what we have been doing until now. And this is the paradox that I think, in which I think that the trade unions needs to reflect on. What happens for this to happen this way? What happens when we want to recover this new contract that is sustainable at an ecological level? It needs to be there in the contract. It needs to be there in the front line of the social majorities, because they have proven to be more just, and we are seeing the higher risk that we have been living in years. And by doing this assessment, we can understand the transition, the just transition. In our opinion, what is happening right now is that we are witnessing economic crisis and social crisis that are advancing at a very, very fast pace. And it's not all about the expectancy of the majorities of the wealthy. We are contributing to a very intense change, energetically speaking, regarding empowerment of women, regarding sexual rights, and regarding digitalization. So there is a part of the population that can be way behind the rest. So we are living different changes, and these are being perceived as threats. They are being perceived as threats and not as opportunities. Therefore, some parties are trying to position old ideas, to offer old beliefs to population that are neo-fascist and that can be terribly efficient, however, unfortunately. And this is where we need to understand that the transition government needs to be a just government, needs to be comprehensive, needs to be democratic, and we need to take part in it. It needs to integrate. We must not leave anyone behind. Therefore, we are facing some threats and some opportunities as well. And I do believe that it's fundamental, and it's very close to our heart as a trade union, when we are transforming, when we are being far away from those old companies that are no longer sustainable or competitive. Therefore, it is fundamental for these changes to be done by alternative investments, and it's important for the times not to eat each other up. And in these protection measures, we are creating great solutions, but regarding energy or other goods and services, we are not improving. Therefore, people are running away from some populations, from some villages, from rural areas, etc. Therefore, we need for this digitalization to mean an improvement in the working conditions of some people. These processes of retraining are totally necessary. Market does not assign the resources in a logical way. We need to empower the different trade unions of the workers and even the companies in order to understand and control these changes, so that those people that change the way they work, the place in which they work, the production methods, do not feel threatened, and so that people can understand that they take part in this debate to manage these reactions. Basically, I'm speaking about the great dilemma that we see in our era. And the dilemma is, and the question is, do we build our societies under a paradigm of this century, or do we want to build in a savage way in which everyone works and wants to go their own path, are individual, and keeps on damaging social spaces in which we can protect ourselves, our society? This is the great challenge. Therefore, we need taxation that is just. We need the disputes regarding productivity and different digital changes go hand in hand with the reduction of working hours, finding this work-life balance, and make life more livable, if I may. The new contract of this new century needs to have all the different contracts, all the different points of this century, and some others. For example, I am going to mention two. It's all about the training, the permanent training, the old scheme of someone that used to study, then went to the working place, and after the experience in university and after its work experience, etc., retired. Well, this model does no longer exist. The model is disruptive. The production chain has changed, and we need to have a permanent control, a permanent gathering. Therefore, this would be one of the cornerstones of our century. And of course, health. It's all about public health. We need to understand health in a preventive way and leave behind this old model when health centers would give us a solution when we already had the problem. We need to pay attention to mental health of the people. And of course, we need to protect the salaries. We need to protect people from unemployment. And basically, we need to add this minimum rent. And I have in personal opinion, it doesn't matter how well we do this transition, taking into account how fast we're moving, a part of the population might not keep track or might not feel updated about the different changes that we're living. But this does not have to mean that they become poorer. We need to we're not speaking about a basic income, minimum income, but we're speaking about a minimum wage regarding the different assessments that will be done and need to be done. And a main element, a core of this dialogue would be to speak about the social contract of this century. It's all about caring. I think that this is a part of the ancient model that was left behind after the Second World War, after the way in which we decided to protect each other as society. We left aside this caring part of our society because women used to take care, and that is how societies were conceived at the end of the century, and this can no longer be the case. This is something that we keep having each day, and we need equality so that women have access to equal conditions in the working environment. And being able to strengthen the social contract is the union. It is what links the green parties with the trade unions. And we need to create an alternative so that neoliberalism chooses a reaction method that in Europe could lead us to a step backwards in the integration of the European model. It might seem like I'm overreacting, but the influence of the evolution of far-right parties, and of course in Spain normally European elections are elections in which citizens vote in a very responsible way, and the European framework is something that people see very, very far away. Europe is being affected by the legislation, by the different norms, and Europe is something seen as something far away, and this cannot be the case. We need to opt for, Esther Lynch was saying this previously, about the fact that trade unions in Europe need to create a movement in the next elections, because our future is being jeopardized. And I think that trade unions in Spain have developed further in the last years because we have seen a clear change in the different ecological just transitions. And some years ago, this was conceived as a threat, but right now it is an opportunity, taking into account that we have to understand the characteristics, the features, because our country has always been outside of this transformation, and Spain, for the first time, has the right methods to create this transformation. Of course, it depends on the Green Deal, it depends on different variables that will happen, but there is the possibility for countries as Spain not to be outside this transformation that is going to happen, but we need to create a government that if it's progressive, that would be great, because if it's otherwise, it won't be the solution. We need to understand that trade union needs to deal with contradictions, need to deal with the urgency to give response to problems of the people, but we need for the times to go hand in hand with transformation, so that people understand that a change is not a threat, but an opportunity. So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Unai, and for reminding us how important the work of trade unions is.